Teachers at Hatboro-Horsham High School enjoyed a fun moment in a training session on formative assessment techniques.
We wanted to make sure it was fun, but we had to then structure what we call success criteria into how would you slide an Oreo cookie down your face and then land it into your mouth as many times as possible in a minute. So we put them together, grouped them together, and then we said, okay, you have to now get every team member to get the cookie in your mouth.
Blink and wink down the nose. Oh!
This exercise was fun but effective in the way it demonstrated to teachers the benefits of learning through multiple attempts at a goal. Formative assessment techniques help the teachers achieve their goal even if they fail once or twice.
You notice the first time you didn't necessarily achieve the success as easily as you could. Sometimes we have to go back. Sometimes we have to review. Not only did we establish the success criteria, so the steps that the students need to do to accomplish the task, but we showed them an exemplar, a model for what students are trying to achieve. And we showed it to them twice. So we gave them the opportunity to look at it, talk about it, and then when we saw that the conversation, as we formatively assessed, that it was not necessarily moving in a very explicit direction, we gave them another chance to look at the video, see what the model was, and then have an opportunity to have a conversation again. And then together we established as a whole class what would be the specific ideas that would be essential in order to be successful in that task.
State-recommended formative assessment techniques have been in motion at the high school for over a year. Teachers met throughout the high school on this day and shared their experiences on what has worked for them.
So that you use exit tickets, what was successful about them? Like other than just having kids do them?
Well, in terms of concluding a class, in terms of what you covered that class period, giving kids a chance at the very end to decompress and to check in and to reflect on what they learned that period.
I think it also lets you know how successful you were with teaching the lesson, what did the students get out of it, and making sure that hopefully they got the objective of the lesson. So it gives you a chance to check that.
One of the challenges for this professional development session was to sell formative assessment techniques to math teachers, since formative assessment is perceived to be only for liberal arts classes.
You have so many examples of other math, non-math content area successes. How can we really make this connected to Algebra 2 or trigonometry or whatever math that you need to get the kids engaged in? And so this is part of it.
We had two members of our team who went out and reached into some of the math teachers to talk about what are the formative assessments that they're using, and then did a little bit of research to figure out what are some of the strategies that we're using that could also be an additional component to add to a math class, and being a little bit more differentiated in how they attack the math department and their construct of the success criteria.
Defining success criteria for students was a point emphasized during the sessions in the high school. Teachers should model and remind students during class what the goals of that lesson are.
What's going to make this stuff successful? So if you're talking about success criteria, the question for you to all decide here is, what can you pull out of Still I Rise to make your paper successful?
Dave puts an agenda on the board, and as he's working his way through the agenda, he's crossing things off the list so the students see that the tasks have been accomplished. One of the things that Dave also does is very explicitly in the beginning of the period, he names the WALT, and that is we are learning to. He is very explicit in his instruction about students, this is what we are learning to do today, and it gives a team approach and gives a language that's very accessible to students. And as he sets the learning intention for the class period, he continually revisits it throughout the period, so there is no mistake about it. Students are very clear what the expectations are and what they're working to learn that day.
Those teachers who use formative assessment in the classroom today are seeing some success in the performance of their students.
The more often you visit it during the lesson, day to day, the more these concepts start to get into the head of a student, and then you can apply it a number of different ways. When it comes time for those traditional tests, if you've done the job of keeping that content always rolling around their heads in a number of different ways, it pours out onto a test, and that's what we've seen.